Hello. It's telling us that we are live, which is always nice to hear. Can anyone hear us? This is the first time that we've done this, which is actually why we're doing it this evening. Our book launch is this Saturday on the 10th of April, and there's loads of live events for you to come along to. So this is a little bit of an extra. And if we're honest, most of it is to practice talking in front of a screen for a live video. So if you can't hear us, drop us a message in the chat and let us know. Now, what's going to happen is we're just going to read a little bit of our books each, just one excerpt. We won't keep you long. Virginia's going to go first with her adult book, Adult Historical Fiction, The Year We Lived, which is already getting really good ratings. Oh, brilliant, Judith. Thank you so much. Which is already getting really good ratings from people who have read it. So I know that it's a really good book with a fantastic twist at the end. Honestly, I was so excited. I think I figured out the twist in October because it goes through the year, you see. And I think it was October when I figured it out, and I ran downstairs because I was reading it in bed, and I ran downstairs to tell Ginny what an amazing twist it was. But I'm going to stop talking about that now because I'm going to tell you what the twist is. So I don't want to do that because that's going to ruin it. And then I'm going to read a bit of my book, Unicorn's Wool, which is for kids. But I think adults who have a lot of fun in them as well, a lot of their kiddie side, I think they will enjoy this book too. So it's actually meant for October for you too, Gia. Yeah, I know. That really gave it away for me. This book's actually meant for younger readers than my last one, which was Taking Wing. So Taking Wing was kind of crossover. So it was for kids, but adults seem to enjoy it as much. This one is written primarily for kids. And it's about unicorns because unicorns are awesome. So I'm going to hand over to Virginia. If you have any questions, pop them in the chat and we will see if we can answer them at the end. You don't have to ask questions. There'll be plenty of time for that on Saturday as well. Like I say, this is a practice. This is a practice one and a sneak preview for you guys. Okay, Virginia.
Hello. And yeah, hello. I'm going to do a very small reading from this book. Now, my copy has not for resale across the top here. Your copy, if you buy one, won't have that. But this is the copy of mine that has all the pages turned down where I wanted to do readings and things like that. And the readings the reading that I've chosen to just read to you today is from February. So like Clemency said, this book goes right through the year. It starts in January and finishes in December, you know, like a year does. And at the start of every month, we've got these amazing illustrations. I don't know if you can see that. They're all in the fashion of the Bayeux Tapestry, and they follow through the story as well. So thank you very much, illustrator. Who I know is tuned in here because Judith keeps appearing down the top. Okay, so this reading comes from February. Just to set the scene very quickly, we have Edith, who has decided that she's falling in love with Dunstan, who is a changeling, or who says he's a changeling. But Edith's brother doesn't want her to meet him without a strict set of rules. So he's come up with rules that she has to obey when she goes and meets him. He lives in the Fens, so the whole book is set around Lincolnshire, Norfolk area, occasionally going into Yorkshire. So we're around that part of the world. And this is one of the occasions when Edith, with her two chaperones, who are Alan and Egbert, has gone out to meet Dunstan. Dunstan led them through the maze of the fens, guiding them safely along several twists and turns so that Edith became entirely lost in the labyrinth of reed beds. At last, Dunstan crouched down and pointed forward. It's not as great as your hall, but it's dry. Is this where you live? Edith asked as she crouched down on her hands and knees, but before she could crawl in, Alan spoke. Allow me to go first, Liebling. Let me check it's safe. Alan crouched down and crawled in. He had entered a room built entirely of reeds, from the tightly woven roof to the well-trodden floor. There was a wiry, coarse blanket at one side and an array of tiny morsels down the other. These were hung from a wooden spear, which had been tied to the weave of the roof. Edith crawled in and smiled as she beheld all this, while Egbert sat cross-legged, drawing his sword so it rested across his lap. Finally, Dunstan entered, and the four of them sat in a small circle, with Dunstan and Edith facing one another. This is incredible, Edith breathed. Did you build this? No, it was where I woke. I've maintained it since then, though, he added with a hint of pride. When was that? Egbert asked. 14 winters ago. You've been alone since then? Dunstan nodded as he looked across at the soldier. You could only have been a child then, Edith whispered. Who taught you to speak? Dunstan shrugged his shoulders. He sat in the small doorway, shivering as the wind struck his back. The wind's from the east, he muttered. East winds are cruel. Alan looked at the wretched creature before him as Edith asked, Why did you not find new clothes? Where? He whispered. I had spun the wool which made the shirt I wore. I had to shear the sheep myself and card the wool. No one will trade with me, and the sheep are gone now until the spring. Here, Alan said, undoing the clasp of his cloak and placing it on the ground before he pushed it forward. You shouldn't perish because you were loyal to Liebling Edith's requests. Edith smiled proudly across at the soldier, while Dunstan fell over himself to express his gratitude. Egbert remained silent, but let go of his sword hilt. As the minutes passed them by, they talked on anything Edith chose to discuss. When midday arrived, Dunstan offered them the meagre food he had in his house, but Edith politely declined, fearing he would starve before she saw him again if she took his food. We should return, Edith said. Robert will be worried if we're out beyond dusk. Will you come back to the hall with us? I promised I wouldn't. I don't want to break my promise. Holding Alan's cloak tightly over his scarred back and thin body, Dunstan guided them from the hut and back to the edge of the river where the path was obvious. Alan and Egbert began walking away, but stopped as they realised Edith was not following. Instead, she stood before Dunstan, her hands behind her back, and addressed him softly. Don't think badly of us. I've enjoyed today. I couldn't think badly of you, Edith. Do you believe, she whispered, staring into his dark eyes. What? Mater used to say, if you look into a person's eyes and see your soul reflected. No, Dunstan said, interrupting her and causing her to blink in surprise. It is the magic. Don't succumb to it. Fearfully, she nodded and rushed away from him. She looked back as she reached the two soldiers, but Dunstan had already vanished.
Okay, so that's one of the parts that starts it all off, isn't it?
It is, yes. The visits to the reeds.
A lot happens after that, and it gets really quite hairy at times. I don't think you'll mind me saying.
No, that's absolutely true. That's part of writing an adventure.
Yeah, oh, it's a really good book. I would recommend it to anybody who likes reading historical fiction. And actually, to be honest, to anyone who likes reading something with real grit. So I'm not really a historical fiction reader, but I absolutely loved that book because there's just so much in it. And you are so invested in the characters. And oh my goodness, the characters will go on such a journey. All of them, actually. So I'm going to stop talking about it now because Judy is blushing. But it is a really good book, and I do recommend you buy it come Saturday. So I'm going to go on to my book, which is completely different because it's written for kids. So it's a very short book. I would call it a chapter book, but not a first chapter book. So the age range I've kind of been thinking about is 7 to 9 year olds, really. So it is quite a bit younger than Taking Wing. So this part, which I'm going to read to you, is only, I think, in the 3rd chapter, is very near the beginning of the book. And Sarah, the main character, a human, has gone into this world called Mindtime. And Mindtime is full of things that children love. It's like their best dreams. But it also happens to house their nightmares as well. So there's good things and there's bad things. And shock horror, the elf queen, who is not a very nice person, has imprisoned the unicorn queen because the unicorn queen is set to take over Mindtime. And with the unicorn gone, all the goodness is seeping out of Mindtime and beginning to seep out of our world as well. So adults are the same in Mindtime too, then, Sarah mumbled. Adults are the same everywhere, aren't they? John said as he kicked his feet along the ground, grumbling the whole time but not putting things right. They're not all like that, John, Madeline corrected. I bet Sarah's parents are really nice. Sarah's 3 new friends all looked at her as if expecting her to agree or disagree. Well, they always want what's best for me, Sarah replied. But they do have that annoying habit of always thinking they know what's best. John agreed. It's been the same for us all. Shh. Madeline stopped them in their tracks. As they listened, they heard the sound of beating wings coming closer and closer. Hide! The elf cried. There was nowhere suitable to hide. John and Peter crouched down and burrowed with their hands into the earth, but Madeline and Sarah were left out in the open meadow with nowhere to go. The stream, Madeline hissed. Go! As they hurtled towards the stream, too fast for Sarah to see clearly where she was going, she was aware of the sound of wings coming closer. This time, it was mixed with another sound of whooshing. Sarah ducked as she heard Madeline shout for her to keep running, but she couldn't move out of fear until she felt herself being pulled to her feet. The dream was quickly turning into a nightmare. Spinning around, she saw it was Madeline who had moved her, but before they could go any further, there was a deafening whoosh and crash, and a fierce ball of fire exploded, sending them flying through the air. Sarah landed on the soft grass, with Madeline only a short distance away. She wasn't moving. Sarah started to run over to her, but looked up as she heard the wings again. Coming towards her from the sky was a box, a giant box, with wings. No, it wasn't a box exactly. It was a chariot. As it came towards her, Sarah could see that it was a shiny chariot, which, instead of being pulled by horses, was flying using its own wings, which were stretching out wide. Inside the vehicle, there were 2 elves standing, and one of them was pointing another arrow right at her. Sarah didn't know what to do. She needed to move or the archer would kill her, and she needed to help Madeline. But she couldn't help the elf until she was safe from the chariot. Why is the grass so short? Sarah thought in panic. If it was longer, I might be able to hide in it. Sarah stumbled backwards as the earth began to rumble and move. The archers paused their chariot so it hovered above her and then looked around. The rumbling grew and became so strong that Sarah fell over. She must have fallen further than she thought because the grass seemed taller from where she was now sitting. And I'm going to leave it there. I wasn't going to, but I've changed my mind because it's a bit suspenseful. And you'll have to buy the book and read it if you want to find out what happens. So I really enjoyed writing this book because it comes from a story I wrote when I was about, what do you think? About 8, maybe 8 years old.
Going to go for 8,
yeah. I think it was about 8 years old. So obviously it's changed a lot since then, but the characters are mostly the same, and the general idea is, I think, the same, except when I was 8 years old, there wasn't really a plot.
I'm not sure there was a baddie, was there? As I remember.
No, there was the thought of a baddie.
Which is a skill in itself, this idea of a threat.
I'm just having a look at Judith's emoji there. What on earth does it mean? Is it
a wave?
Is it a wave, or is it a hand up, or is it? There hadn't been a party. Oh no, Judith remembers the 8-year-old story. Yeah, so the first chapter of the story, when I was 8, you've got this. It was it was a good chapter for an 8-year-old, but the premise was about having a party where there hadn't been a party for 4,000 years, which is a long time, to not have a party. So obviously that's awful for an 8-year-old. So that was the story. That was the story. So it's changed quite a bit. It's changed into something hopefully a lot more entertaining.
Certainly a lot more structured, anyway. No, it's
we'll go with it.
It's amazing. I just want to show you something from the bit that Clemency was just reading. So I'm not giving you any spoilers here, but the book is full of little bits like this. Can you see that? So it's not just straightforward text. We have really exciting bits like that in the text, and we have some brilliant illustrations. I'm going to show you my favourite one. Here we go. Those are the gnomes in the cupboard. So if you want to know about gnomes in the cupboard, then get the book and read about it. It's really, really good.
Well, thank you very much.
No, I know this for fact. I got it for Christmas, not this year, but the year before.
And hopefully it has been improved since then as well.
Well, yes, it didn't have those pictures and those words in either.
Don't put the book in front of the microphone. Don't worry.
Okay.
So we just showed you the words that, it's not all bog standard writing, basically. That's what we were saying. So here are some illustrations. So there's the standing stones. There's Sarah looking particularly cross. And then that's them in the dark dungeon. Yes, there's quite a lot to the book. And it goes whoosh, 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 because it's a kid's book. And
there's no downtime. It's just continuous adventure. It's brilliant.
Right, so I'm going to leave it there, but say please come along to our events on Saturday. If you can't make them all, that's fine. And they will stay up on YouTube, I believe. Yeah. So they are going to stay up on YouTube, but choose which one you're most interested in and come along to that. We'd love to see you there.
We're generally listing them almost in order of age, aren't we? So the first event is aimed mainly at young writers. And
yes.
Then we're kind of moving through the day. I mean, they're all going to be suitable for everyone, but the morning event will be aimed specifically at younger people, and then by the evening event, by which point some younger people will probably have passed their bedtime, it will be for a slightly older audience.
Yes. So thank you so much for coming along this evening. I'm actually surprised we got anybody because, like I say, it was just a practice. But thank you so much for coming along and listening to our excerpts. Hopefully we will see you on Saturday. So bye for now.
Bye.